My name is Talon Cavender Wilson. I come from the Upper Sioux community. I'm working on the Dakota Care project as one of their trial artist residents. As part of this Dakota Care project, the major focus is on what's happening in the community around Corona times. And so I started really looking into the effects of Corona, especially in Indigenous communities and minority groups generally. I was finding statistics saying that essentially people of color are 4 to 5 times more likely to get Corona and have a higher chance of it being more severe due to medical care and access to treatment. My heart and my mind has been quite heavily on social justice issues through these times. And so for my project, I was listening to a couple interviews. I was actually listening to a lot of interviews with street level activists during the protests here in Minneapolis. And one of the things that really resonated with me is a quote by one activist, and it was something along the lines of, "If you do not hear us when we whisper, you will hear us when we shout." When trying to reflect over this project and kind of move forward, that quote never really left my mind. And so at first I was trying to come up with very literal representations of that and how it would affect Corona. But then I started trying to think more abstract, and I started thinking about sound itself and the resonance of sound. One of the things I learned how to make over in Sweden was large metal bowls. Some people use metal bowls as resonators for meditation and stuff like that, so you can use the sound that these bowls create. However, the thing about that is if the bowl is relatively perfect, it doesn't have to be perfectly round or anything like that, but if it doesn't have any imperfections like cracks or fissures or anything like that, then it will create this beautiful sound. However, if you introduce cracks or imperfections, the sound will get distorted, it will get warped, it will get impure. And so one of the things I thought about quite a lot is this idea of people being held back, and this idea that people don't want to listen when it's just a whisper. Of course, when we talk and nothing is hindered, when we talk about happy and joyous things that are completely unhindered, it makes this beautiful sound and everybody wants to listen to it. Of course, everyone wants to listen to it. However, as soon as people start bringing up these issues that are holding people back, all of a sudden, you don't want to listen anymore. It's not pleasant to listen to. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to listen to it. That doesn't make it any less important. And then moving further with that, I introduced another aspect as well. The one thing I didn't make, I put marbles in the last bowl. I filled it with marbles. Now, these marbles, in my mind, kind of represent Corona. Now, what happens when you take marbles and you put them in a metal bowl like this, and then you strike it as if to get a sound, it will mute that sound. It makes a little rattling noise, but not much beyond that. All right, I'm gonna hit it with a hammer, and marbles are gonna go flying everywhere. Are you prepared for that? Art. And now I have a mess to clean up. The thought being there that at first, even if there are really strong underlying structural issues, that for a while Corona is going to take the front seat. It's going to silence those issues for a while until something happens. all of a sudden those issues are going to be amplified, and eventually it's going to go from a light tap on the bowl, which is going to create a small sound, to someone's going to pick up a hammer and smash the bowl. And then we have a mess that we have to clean up.
How to Make Dakota Style Baby Moccasins by Lisa Nez. I'm an enrolled member of the Lower Sioux Indian community in Morton, Minnesota. This is for intermediate beaters, for lazy stitch beading. I will be showing you throughout numerous other videos of how to do each step individually. This is brought to you by the Department of Public Transformation, a Dakota Community Artist in Residence program that was done here in July 2020. A little bit about me. I'm married to my husband, Pete Nez. He's an enrolled member at the Navajo Nation. We've been married for 10 years and we have 9 children. I've making all different kinds of regalia since I was such a little girl. Have to kind of self-taught myself. I've also learned many tricks and skills from a master artist, Walter Labatt, also known as Super, from the Upper Sioux community. I was lucky enough to do an apprenticeship with him with brain tan buckskins and smoking the hides, and also learning how to bead with them. So that's where I learned most of my skills. The plan is to go through the materials, the design colors, cutting out your patterns, drawing the beading lines, start your beading, sewing up the backs, finish beading, sewing on the tongues, ties with the leather hole punch, and then sewing on the soles. So I will be going into depth into each of these different kinds of areas in different videos throughout. You may have to switch videos to watch them. These are the list of the materials that I use. My patterns you can get at the Amazon or at the Frontier Trade Goods if you're in Minnesota. That's in Cosmos, Minnesota. Also, I get my brain tan buckskin hides from them as well. Obviously, you can get your pens, your rulers, lighters, scissors, needle nose pliers. You can get those at your local Walmart. And then I get my beads and needles on shipwreckbeads.com. And there'll be a list of this at the end of the slideshow here. The first and hardest part, which takes the longest, is doing your design, coming up with your design and your colors. You really have to watch to make sure your colors don't mesh too much with, like putting white and yellow next to each other. Sometimes it's hard to see the difference for your patterns. I use a graph paper to help me lay out my designs because I use 8 beads per 3/8 inch. And I like to have the puffy look of my beads, not the flat stitch. That's why I do it this way, so it gives you that nice arch. So for the patterns, if you're making a size 4 moccasin, you'll want to use a size 5 top and a size 4 sole. That way you won't have the elf toes when you're sewing the soles on together. Here I'm showing you the arrows of where to mark on the leather when you're drawing them out on the leather. That way you have those markings, so when you sew the soles on, that way you'll match those up together and they'll be even. They'll look even and not lopsided. So cutting out your moccasin pattern, you're going to draw around each of the patterns on the buckskin hide. You'll see the points on each of these where I have marked either with a little indent or with a line. Make sure you flip your pattern too, so you're not doing 2 of the same side feet. So if you flip it over, you'll get one of each side, one right side and one the opposite side. So that's what you should have cutting out. I also do draw my beading lines on the moccasin. As you can see here, I did the tongue pattern. Drawing the tongue first across the center and then going up the sides helps me lay out my lines there. So you'll start your beading. You will start your beading here at this arrow here. It kind of shows you there. And this also gives you a tip to go around the toes, which you can also come back and see that too. Then we will move on to sewing up the backs of the moccasins. I like to make it so it looks perfectly beading across the back and you're not kind of stopping and having like an inch where you don't have beads. This will change your life with beading moccasins here. I attach the tongue and then finish the beading around the back there, and then we'll be sewing on the soles, which will be inside out, and then we will be adding the ties using the leather hole puncher to do those. And then here's the list of the contact information for our product materials.
My name is Fern Cloud. Aik Bawi is my Dakota name, which means branch woman. It's my great-great-grandmother's name on my dad's side. The project that I've chosen for this, the Community Artists in Residency, was a hide painting. We were asked to try to include the COVID-19, this pandemic, and that whole atmosphere of uncertainty that we're living in, to make a piece that is going to reflect some of that. The design I chose is, I would say it's a historical, a spiritual, social piece. The colors have meaning. The design actually tells a story. It tells the story of the Dakota lifeways. So traditionally, when you start a hide painting, you put your design on the hide with buffalo bone glue, using a bone or a stick. So the next step on that process would be putting in the paints, and I use natural paint pigments. The Dakota Nation is made up of 7 council fires, the Oshedi Shikoi. So the Wapetua are the dwellers among the leaves, and this is where we're at right now at the Upper Sioux community. The Berewa Kantua are the dwellers of Spirit Lake, which is over there in eastern Minnesota. And the Sissetua are dwellers among the fish grounds, and the Wachpekute are the shooters amongst the leaves. So, and the other 2 are the Ihachtua and Ihachtuana, and they are presently in south central South Dakota, and that's the Yankton Sioux tribe today. And the Teton are of course the Lakota, and they also have their own Oshedi Shikoi 7 bands within the Teton. Here are some of the brushes that our ancestors used. They're called buffalo bone brushes. So here are all the bone brushes that I used. And once you use this brush for yellow, it stays yellow. You can't mix it because, you know, this paint, the pigments are so strong. So these are traditionally they would put the paint in here, these bones, and that was their containers. Sometimes I use sticks, different kind of sticks. Of course they use willow sticks and whatever they had. And they also used little shells. We refer to these as feathers in designs when we're doing buffalo hide painting. So the 7 feathers are representative of the 7 the Oshedi Shikoi. Usually I start, my design starts here and it goes out. So usually I start from the top and then I work down so that way I don't smudge. One thing this pigment is very, I touch this, I set it down, and then I got a little bit on my finger and I put my hand here and I got this. So I'm going to have to try to get that off. Your hands have to be very, 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 very clean. These colors are symbolic of the directions. So we have the black, which is traditionally west. The red is always the north. The yellow is the east. And the white is the south. Blue, which is the sky nation, Machbia. The green, which is the earth, Makaina. And then the red, which is ourselves. So we have 7 directions that we acknowledge in our life. And when we pray, we acknowledge those 7 directions. This represents that we are told that we are Star Nation, that we came from the stars. So it also is symbolic of our history. And when I've done this before, I had a buffalo at 4 buffalo, and that is told a story of the coming of the white buffalo calf woman, how she came to us and brought us the 7 rights. Wo'unshida means compassion, generosity, courage, respect, wisdom, patience, and humility. And to help us to be in balance, it's for us in our language, we say we are Wo Dakota. To be Wo Dakota means that you live by those 7 values or those 7 virtues. These on every corner, they're like fans, but they really don't have any meaning. They're designed, they just kind of pull it in. But I put a little floral design. To me, I thought, I want to bring it back to here, to where I'm at here. So one of our staple foods is wamanaheza. It's corn, blue corn. Native people are very tight. We have such a strong kinship. Extended family. It's very important to us. That makes up life for us. And during this time of quarantine and social distancing, it's been very difficult for us, because it's part of our culture to always be together. So I see that, and I thought about that, and I think this design is part of that grounding or that connectedness to who we are.